this spring is the 10-year anniversary of the rebirthing of AD. What I mean by that is 10 years ago, there was only about 5 members in AD. And Dr. Handy, they came to Dr. Handy and said, hey, if you don't do something about it, AD's charter is going to get revoked, and South Carolina probably won't have a charter of AD anymore. So him, Dr. Handy, and 5 students took over AD 10 short yet long years ago. And it's amazing for them to see how far it's grown, and pretty cool for us to see where it's come from. So next week, the 5 original members that kind of rebirthed AD and Dr. Handy will be here to talk about their experiences in AD. A lot of them are actually residents right now. One was pediatrics. He was actually the founding president of it, so he'll be here to talk about just how far AD's come, our chapter, and all over the nation to kind of see the growth of AD around here. So that'll be next week, and then our final meeting of the year will be April 12th. April 12th, we're going to have an info session. I know a lot of y'all are interested in running for elections, so you can get up here and talk as much as I do. If you're interested in that, April 12th, we're going to have, I think the board, you can sit up here and kind of talk about what we do, our positions. If you want to come and ask questions, do stuff like that, come find out what we do, you can do that. And then elections themselves will be April 19th. So we have March 22nd today, March 29th next week will be 10-year rebirthal anniversary ceremony, and then April 12th will be info session. April 19th will be actual election. So that's as far as meetings we have going on. And besides that, Relay for Life is coming up pretty quick. Relay for Life, for those of you who don't know, is a big fundraising event everybody does on campus. I'm sure you've heard of it. We're doing another team this year. If you want any information about it or interested in joining, you can see up here Milan. You can stand up in the back. He is in charge of it. He's setting up with Chase Clark, our social chairs, and they'll be conducting teams. If you want to get involved, volunteer, stuff like that, help set up. You can talk to him. And what else do we have going on?
All their information is online on the website, so you can just go to the officers page and look up their email that you know. But we'll send out all this stuff with further emails and things like that, so you don't have to put this in your memory bank right now. I do want to interrupt because we are going to do a fundraiser coming up April 9th, and that's going to be some kind of we're going to get some pets, and then we're going to do pictures and petting pets and doing whatever for donations and things. I think we might do some food, but all the donations it's being decided upon what we're going to use with those donations, whether it's going to go for our MUSC or Greenville trip, which I'm about to speak about, or to a charity of our choice. So if you guys have a certain charity that you'd like to donate the money to, come up and talk to us about it. Lena Davda, and I'll have her information. She's doing the MUSC trip, and what I want to say about that is that's still in the works. So sometime late April, I know there's a lot of interest. She got a lot of emails saying that you want to go see MUSC. Last semester we did Greenville, but based on the time frames of everybody's availability, I think Friday late afternoon is probably best. So whoever kind of gives us the best time for that, we're gonna shoot for that. So it might be MUSC if they can do late in the afternoon on a Friday, or it might be Greenville again. So we'll keep you posted on all that. But let's go ahead and get into the speaker and listen.
Let's go for Megan. Would you like to introduce the speaker for the evening?
Well, tonight we're very fortunate to have Dr. McClyman. She's in the philosophy department here, and she teaches classes like her medical ethics class and her healthcare ethics class, and she's just going to give us a really great different perspective that you wouldn't normally get on healthcare. So if you would join me in welcoming her.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really flattered to be asked to come here tonight, and I'm so surprised there are so many of you. Where are you during classes? There's so many of you. It's a Sunday night, and it's raining and gloomy, and I fear that I were you, I'd be able to watch Netflix. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about bioethics. How many of you have heard of bioethics? Maybe anyone hasn't? No? Okay, so the field of bioethics is giant. And tonight we're just going to talk about, we're going to talk about clinical ethics. But to make sense of that, we're going to contrast it with a couple of other areas in bioethics. So bioethics itself is study of ethical issues brought about by advances in biology and medicine. So this includes environmental ethics, the ethics of emerging technologies, animal ethics, agricultural ethics, as well as medical ethics. So bioethics itself is a big, big, broad area of which you, as interested pre-med students, are probably only interested in a portion of it. Clinical ethics is a subspecialty within bioethics. Clinical ethics deals with ethical issues that happen mainly in acute care in hospitals. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. But just to contrast two other areas of ethics that are also relevant to medicine, there's research ethics. Anyone know what research ethics is? Yeah? In fact, what's research ethics? Talk to me. Yeah, you.
Well, I participated in a HIV/AIDS research project in which we research patients' medical history, and it just deals with like how to use the information, how to delegate the information, like respecting the privacy.
Right, so the kinds of things you're worried about in research ethics, privacy, confidentiality, getting consent for research subjects, anything that might protect research subjects from harms associated with the project, that's what you're concerned with. Public health ethics, very different from clinical ethics, what we're talking about today. Public health ethics is concerned with protecting the public's health. How, ethically speaking, how do we protect the public's health? And there the big ethical issue is, what's the right balance between community-wide interest in protecting health? So things like vaccines which have been in the news recently, quarantines, versus individual liberties, or individual rights to movement, and to make your own decisions about whether or not you want to get your children vaccinated. We're not going to talk about public health ethics, we're not going to talk about research ethics, we are going to talk about clinical ethics today. Now, clinical ethics starts in the United States in the mid to late 1970s. Has anyone ever heard of the Quinlan case, Karen Quinlan? Yeah? So Karen Quinlan was a young girl. She was at university, much like some of you. She's 21, she's at a party. She's drinking, on some reports she's doing drugs. She passes out. And when her friends go to find her again, she's not breathing. So they call the ambulance, they come and take her to the hospital. When she gets there, she's in a persistent vegetative state. The hospital staff immediately put her on a ventilator. What does that help do?
Breathe.
Helps her breathe. Puts in a feeding tube. What's that help her? Gives her nutrition. And they see how things are going. But she doesn't get any better. She's not going to wake up. The doctors are almost 100% sure she's never going to get up and walk around again. And her parents, who are Catholic, they asked the clinicians to remove the respirator. Her family didn't think this was a big deal. They didn't think this request was out of the ordinary. For all intents and purposes, their daughter is dead, and they asked to remove the ventilator. What happens? Does the hospital agree? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? You're right, so the hospital does not agree. They don't do this, they refuse. And so the family then sue the hospital, take it to court. And in the circuit courts, does the court support the family or the hospital? What do you think? Hospital. In the first court case, the family loses, and they support the hospital in maintaining the respirator. Eventually, this case makes it to the New Jersey Supreme Court, because the hospital's in New Jersey. She's in a hospital in New Jersey. And the New Jersey Supreme Court overturns the lower court's decision, and they side with the family. And they say, yes, family in this case can decide to remove the ventilator for the respirator. The issues in this case are various. It was a complicated case. One issue was whether or not her parents were allowed to make this decision. She's 21, so she's not underage. They're not her guardians anymore. She was an adult. She's not able to make a decision for herself, right? She's in persistent vegetative state. So who gets to make the decision? And part of this decision was about who does get to make these decisions in such cases. when the patient has not left any kind of information about who gets to make these decisions, and you're an adult, who gets to make them, the course decided that the families can make these decisions for you even when you're an adult. So next to the this is now standard, right? In hospitals now it's completely standard. If you're unable to make decisions for yourself and you don't have a living will, then your next of kin can make a decision for you. Of course, you don't have to have them make a decision. You can leave written an advance directive or a living will that gives permission to make these kinds of decisions to someone else. Now, what's interesting for our purposes tonight is that the New Jersey Supreme Court, in their decision, they don't just say parents of adult children can make like these kinds of life and death decisions for them. No, the Supreme Court goes above and beyond that. They reflect on this case and they say, look, there are going to be lots of other cases like this coming down the road. Technology is getting more advanced. We can see this coming, and we're scared. Because there is no way the courts have the capacity to deal with all the potential cases that are going to be coming down the road about removal of life-sustaining technology. So they say, hospitals, we think you ought to develop committees, and they call them prognosis committees. And these committees should really be dealing with these kinds of questions on the ground. Because the other problem with the courts, not just that they would be inundated with cases of which they don't have the capacity to hear, they were also worried that these kinds of cases really belong in the hospitals where all the contextual features of the case are ready to hand. So they want hospitals to form committees, which they call prognosis committees, to deal with these kinds of cases when they arise. Prognosis committees became our modern day clinical ethics committees. So in 1995, the Joint Commission, which accredits the vast majority of U.S. hospitals, said that hospitals seeking accreditation in the United States must have some mechanism for dealing with ethical issues. So if you're a hospital in the U.S. and you're trying to get accredited by the Joint Commission, then you have to have some mechanism on the books to deal with ethical issues that arise. And a clinical ethics committee is the most popular way of doing so. In the United States, and this was a good 10 years ago, 81% of hospitals had a clinical ethics committee. And at the time the study was done, 14% were in the process of establishing one, so you might think that that number is more like 95%. 100% of hospitals with over 400 beds have an ethics committee, and of course all the Veterans Administration hospitals have a clinical ethics committee. A few years ago, when Sarah Palin was running for vice president, does anyone remember, you may be too young to remember, but does anyone remember the thing about death panels? Sometimes it still comes up in the news, death panels. Anyone say yes if you remember that? Some of you do? Raise your hand if you remember so I have a nice idea. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so Sarah Palin, in the context of healthcare reform, said that if we had healthcare reform that would lead to death panels, she was alluding to clinical ethics committees. Clinical ethics committees are essentially what she was calling death panels. We already have them, but they're not death panels. It's important to note that although the New Jersey Supreme Court wanted hospitals to develop prognosis committees to make decisions about these kinds of end-of-life cases, such as the Quitman case, this is not what actual clinical ethics committees do in the United States. In the United States, healthcare ethics committees make recommendations on ethical issues. They don't determine the prognosis of a patient's care, nor do they make decisions that are binding. So an ethics committee can say whatever it wants. The doctors who asked for the consultation do not need to follow the recommendation. And at least prima facie, there's no repercussions for not following the recommendation. Clinical ethics committee, think of it like another expert in a hospital. So you've all heard about getting second opinions, right? You go to see a doctor, and they tell you what's wrong, but then you're not so sure you trust him or her, or you're hoping that you'll get a better diagnosis or prognosis with someone else, so you go and get a second opinion. Healthcare ethics are another way of getting expertise on a case. It's like going to get a second opinion or a consultation with another expert. So you don't have to follow what they said. They don't make binding decisions about resources, although they do make recommendations regarding resources. Clinical ethics committees, they're odd. They're multidisciplinary committees. They include doctors and a lawyer sometimes, an ethicist like me, nurses, PTs, OTs, a whole spectrum of healthcare professionals. And they're multidisciplinary for a purpose because having different perspectives on a common issue is often a helpful way of seeing all sides of the issue. There are 3 functions for clinical ethics. What we're going to talk about tonight is probably the most interesting in some ways is consultation, but they also have other functions such as policy work and education. So in terms of education, when I was doing clinical ethics, we would go to a unit, say palliative care, and I would do a lunchtime talk on advanced care planning. Or you would go and you might do a grand round for the whole hospital on a case that you just recently had. You might talk about lessons learned in particular ethics consultation. So the idea of education is trying to teach the hospital, clinicians within the hospital, something about ethics so that when they are dealing with an ethics issue, it's not for the first time they've even heard this word, but they can recognize an ethical issue when it comes up. Now, the structure of individual committees really varies. So I said it's reasonable to think about 95% of hospitals in the United States have one of these things. But what they actually look like really varies. So they're meant to be multidisciplinary. Some hospitals, it's one person who runs it, and there are only people on paper that make up the committee. They don't actually meet. You go from that end of the spectrum the whole way to another end of the spectrum where you have regular monthly, bi-monthly meetings. A couple people on the committee will have beepers, which they wear all the time, and they get emergency consultations. There will be a subcommittee of the larger committee who handle emergency cases, probably a subcommittee that handles specialty cases, maybe transplant cases or end-of-life cases. They have special training in ethics around end-of-life or say transplant. So there are committees which are very sophisticated and well-developed and have a lot of expertise and function very, very well. And then there are committees which are more or less on paper only for the purposes of getting accredited. And it really varies. And the thing is, as of now, today, there aren't national standards to enforce the way an ethics committee ought to work. So that's why you get this kind of variation. Okay, so I said consultation is the most interesting part of clinical ethics. And so we're going to do 2 cases today. And you're going to help me, and you're going to have to talk to me. And we're going to be here. So I'm going to read this case to you. It's a real case. It was in the news about a year and 4 or 5 months ago. It's been, for the purposes of my class that I teach, I anonymize it. And I'm going to give you the anonymized version, but after we're done, I'll tell you what the real case is. So this is the kind of consultation request that you might expect to get if you were sitting on an ethics committee. And you get ethics requests from anyone. You get them from anyone in the United States. In fact, most hospitals in the United States, you get them from anyone. So another clinician, another doctor, a nurse, a patient, or a family member can also make a consultation request. And the consultation request would go to the chair of the ethics committee, whoever that is. And in hospitals that have well-run ethics committees, your ethics committee would be advertised. There would be a pamphlet. It would be in patient waiting rooms. It would go into the welcome pack you get when you get to the hospital, so everyone would know, hopefully, that you exist. Okay, so here's the case. Dear Stephen, my name is Dale Coakley. I read your advice regarding a case last week. 13-year-old girl, Ada, was died on Thursday after complications from tonsillectomy and adenoidectomy. She was undergoing the surgery because of sleep apnea. While in recovery from surgery, she experienced sudden bleeding from the unable to intubate in time. She has been declared brain dead by our physicians and by another doctor called by the family. We did 2 apnea tests 24 hours apart and scanned the brain to determine blood flow. We've kept in close contact with the family since Thursday, and I believe they understand that we consider Ada to be dead. That said, they do not agree. The mother in particular continues to refer to her daughter as sleeping, and she says they will wait for her to wake up. Brain dead patients often move flexibly. These are called Lazar movements, and Mrs. Devoted is taking these movements as signs of life. We are unsure how to proceed with this case. It's not hospital policy to maintain a dead body indefinitely, and yet we would like to avoid the removal of the ventilator and feeding tube without their consent. I believe that Mrs. Devoted would speak to if you so desired, but I would like to be present and best wishes to Dan. So I should probably add that I teach this class. I teach medical ethics. It's philosophy 321. Although I'm not the only one that teaches it, there are a number of people in the department that teach it. But when I teach this class, we do a whole sort of mock. You get divided up into clinical ethics committees, and for 8 weeks, you are in this committee and you sit on 8 of these cases. So you would get a case like this over email from me on a Friday. You would have until the Thursday to figure out what you wanted to do, and then on Thursday when you came into class, you would meet with Dr. Coakley and Mrs. Bowden, and you would have to talk to them about any questions you had with the case, try and find out why Mrs. Bowden is reluctant to take her daughter off the life-sustaining technology, talk to Dr. Coakley, find out why he wants to remove it so quickly, and then you would write up a recommendation with your committee and hand it in to me on the Saturday. Okay, so that's the case, and because many of you don't know anything about ethics, I just want to say, to get us started. Typical ethical issues that we're concerned with in any case, and these are just really generic, are beneficence. What's beneficence mean? Does it mean do good? Non-Malthusians, what some Malthusians mean? Do no harm. What's autonomy? Huh? What's it mean? Anyone?
Independence.
Independence. Make decisions, right? Make your own decisions. Some people use independence synonymous. And justice. And we also think of resources, right? Be just in your allocation of resources. So these 4 issues arguably can apply to any case. With every case, there are special things you need to know. So if you were in my class on the Tuesday, say, we would have had a whole lecture on brain death and the ethical issues around brain death. Quickly, I'll just say, brain death is a legal definition of death in all 50 states. Some states, however, not ours, but some, have caveats that allow family members to opt out of the brain death definition. So you can just say, I don't want brain death to be applied to my son, daughter, partner, grandmother, whatever. There are usually criteria that you have to meet, say, a long-held religious belief or something. But also, regardless of whether or not your state allows for you to opt out, brain death is a controversial definition of death. Anyone have any idea why it's controversial? It's not just Mrs. Bowden that's finding it difficult to acknowledge that Ada's dead. Yeah, so phenomenologically, patients look like they're alive. They're still breathing, of course, with the help of a machine. But lots of people in ICU are breathing with the help of a machine, right? And they're not dead. There's a pulse, they're warm to the touch, and they do move. Right? They move. Now, it's not necessarily, it's not intentional movement, like I'm wandering around more or less intentionally across the stage, but they move. It's also controversial because many clinicians think that the people that are breathing are actually alive. And that we call it brain death, but when somebody is dead and kind of dead is a vague and blurry kind of gray space. And a lot of clinicians I talk to, they're probably kind of alive. They're not dead. Why do we have the definition of brain death primarily?
to harvest organs from dead patients to give them to living patients.
Yeah. So what's the other definition of death? How else can you die? What else has to stop working?
Your heart.
Your heart. And when your heart stops, you're dead, right? And nobody really questions this. When your heart stops working, right, the game stops. But what's the problem with being when you undergo circulatory death? Why is it difficult to get at your organs? Anybody know? What? I'm sorry, one person, I can't hear. What happens to your organs?
Tissue death.
Tissue death. So there's something called cold ischemia that happens to your organs. When they are deoxygenated, you can't use them anymore if they become cold, if they become ischemic. And it happens fairly quickly after you stop breathing. So you can retrieve organs after circulatory death, but it has to be in a controlled environment. And there's a lot of controversy about this too, right? Because you have to make sure you get the heart to stop. And then how long do you wait before before you think the heart will spontaneously start beating again? This is the question. What are you dead and you're just kind of waiting to be dead? Because what happens is the heart stops beating, but then sometimes it'll flip again, a little bit longer, flip again. You're not dead. I mean, you're dead for all intents and purposes. Whether you're 100% dead and maybe 75% dead, when are we allowed to start harvesting organs? We have to wait till you're 100% dead? If we do, it might be too late. Your organs might be cold ischemic. So anyway, people thought, okay, this is too complicated. If all these brain dead patients could be dead, they could be brain dead and be really easily 100% considered dead, then we could control all of this so that we could harvest their organs before cold ischemia occurs. And so, while brain death, the definition of death as brain death, harvesting organs isn't the only reason we have it. It's one very motivating factor. So, what do you think the ethical issues are in this case after this is voted in Dr. Surgery? Remember, Dr. Ada went in for, it was a complicated version of a routine surgery. She had sleep apnea, she was having a tonsillectomy and some other things. It was complicated, but by some, I can't actually remember, physiological factor that she had. But nonetheless, no one thought she was going to die. But then she does, kind of. She's brain dead. But her mother doesn't believe it. Anybody remember this case in the news last year, last autumn? Received lots of attention in the US. Her name was not Ada Gordon. Her name was Jahai McMath. Does that ring any bells? Jahai McMath? Out of California. Jahai McMath is black. Family's black. She went into a California hospital to have a tonsillectomy because of sleep apnea. She bled out in recovery. They weren't able to intubate fast enough. She was considered brain dead. Her mother refused to accept this. Anyone know what happened? Yeah.
They moved her to another hospital in the Northeast.
Yeah, she went to New Jersey. And New Jersey allows families to opt out of brain death criteria. So anyone know who paid for this? And actually right now the name is escaping me. Terry Schiavo. The Terry Schiavo Foundation paid for this. It was really hard for the McMaths just to get permission to take Jahai out of the California hospital. Because she's dead, remember? She's dead. Legally, she's dead in California. And they don't have this opt-out issue where you can opt out if you don't agree with it. She's dead. And what do you do when people are dead? Do you release them in an ambulance to their family? Who do you call when someone's dead? Do you call the ambulance to take someone home, or do you call the coroner? You call the funeral home. Who do you call? You call the funeral home, right? When people are dead, you take them off get rid of all the technology, take them downstairs to the coroner, or downstairs to the basement, and put them away.